What's up, guys? DCK here. If you hear any panting, that's the pup. That's not me. And is Roman Reigns the next face of the WWE? Maybe. And in saying that he is maybe the next face of the WWE, that means that right now, on September 18th, 2014, that Roman Reigns is not the next face of the WWE right now. Maybe is not a good word to use when you're trying to pick your next guy. They say that they're looking for their next John Cena, when realistically, if you tried to book Roman Reigns like John Cena, he will bomb worse than John Cena. If you book him like The Undertaker, then it would work. But I digress. Roman Reigns has two paths that he can take. He can organically become a star, a la John Cena, or the WWE can tell us that he is a star, a la Randy Orton. A guy who, honestly, is so uninteresting that Diamond Dave Batista versus Daniel Bryan in a singles match would have been a much more compelling main event than if Randy Orton was ever involved. And that's saying something when you consider that Dave Batista is not nearly the consistent worker that Randy Orton usually is. The Diamond Dave gimmick is much more. I say Diamond Dave because the Animal Batista is not a draw in 2014. Diamond Dave Batista, the heel from Hollywood, now that's fucking money. And I mean that honestly. I honestly think that Diamond Dave is, that's just the name I like to call him, is much more legit than Randy Orton ever will be. And had you done him versus Daniel Bryan in this perfect body guy versus indie guy match, would have been huge. But unfortunately, the fates did not align that way. Nor did the fates align when Daniel Bryan got hurt. Or will they? I'll talk about that in a minute. So Roman Reigns, not quite the guy right now. Again, we want him to be the next John Cena, not the next Randy Orton. And so we need to let's look at the Shield as a whole. The Shield breaks up. Everyone says, oh, here comes Roman's push. Everyone's thinking, well, they're obviously getting Roman ready for Triple H at either SummerSlam or Night of Champions around that renewal period. And we're going to get Ambrose Rollins feuding for a while. We then proceed to get Reigns in a throwaway WWE title match at Battleground when he honestly should have been facing Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins being put with Dean Ambrose at Battleground, that ended up not being a match. They would eventually have their SummerSlam match, which delivered far above anyone's expectations of a lumberjack match. And then also their night after SummerSlam street fight, which set up a good angle, which will eventually lead to Ambrose Rollins battling at Hell in a Cell, potentially in the semi or main event. Again, we'll get to that in a minute. So with that, now Roman Reigns is just now getting a Seth Rollins match at the upcoming Night of Champions pay-per-view, which has been spoiled by a solid Raw match that completely killed any interest in a rematch. And after a Randy Orton feud that honestly didn't work for Roman. Pretty decent match. Not great, but it was alright. But honestly, Randy Orton isn't the guy to put people over. I just think the way he works doesn't quite do it, and I think his attitude permits him from ever being 100% into doing that. So not only is he not that good at putting people over, he's not 100% behind putting people over all the time. So that's a recipe for disaster there. So Roman is already off to a bad start. But hey, there's that Triple H feud coming. Well, here's the deal. A Triple H feud would have worked great had we, say, had the first match at SummerSlam, or even had the first match at Night of Champions, setting up a big Hell in a Cell rematch If you had done a double main event of Reigns, Triple H, and Ambrose Rollins in Hell in a Cell, you could have gotten away with no WWE title match had you had to save a Brock Lesnar appearance on pay-per-view. And by the way, Brock with the belt is absolutely the right choice. Even if Daniel Bryan had not gotten hurt, Brock Lesnar versus Daniel Bryan was going to be the SummerSlam main event, and Brock Lesnar was going to defeat Daniel Bryan for the WWE title. He beat The Undertaker. You need to roll with that. And God forbid John Cena beats him this Sunday. But then again, I'll get to that in a minute. Actually, no. He can't lose on Sunday. So I won't get into a minute. That's it. So, but now we're way behind schedule on a Reigns Triple H feud. Maybe it will happen by Survivor Series. What does need to happen is that feud. That feud needs to happen. Because if we have hope of Roman Reigns being ready to take the belt off Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 31 in California, he needs a big performance in a feud with the likes of Triple H. That's it. And if not only if they don't do it, he's not going to be ready for Mania. And if they do it and he doesn't do that well in it, then he's not ready for WrestleMania with Brock Lesnar. And at the same time that he's having trouble getting over, Rollins has found himself as a heel. He's getting a lot of help. The fact that he was the one to turn heel really helped overcome, I guess, the internet stigma of Seth Rollins and the idea of him being the odd man out of the Shield threesome. And then we have Dean Ambrose, who is one of the most catchy baby faces in recent memory. It's aside from Daniel Bryan, he's the most catchy baby face the WWE has seen in years. And honestly, it's almost impossible to make him a heel right now because of how good he is, and honestly, how he is great at connecting with the crowd. There are 3 people in the WWE who could turn Dean Ambrose heel. Daniel Bryan, and he's hurt. Sami Zayn, he's one of the top babyfaces in the world, but he's stuck in NXT. And Drake Younger, he's a referee right now. So the 3 people who could make Dean Ambrose heel are hurt, in developmental, and a ref. So you're pretty much guaranteed Dean Ambrose having this big babyface reaction because he's just so good at being this new age Pillman Austin character, and he's this great 21st century loose cannon. You don't need to punch us in the face with it. You don't need to call him unstable every 3 seconds because we get it, because we're smart. We understand things that you don't. We understand subtlety. It works sometimes. So now we have this really catchy babyface in Dean Ambrose, who honestly, if he keeps up his momentum coming out of the Rollins feud, honestly, he would do a better job in a Mania main event with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 31 and winning the belt off him. I'd honestly trust that more should Dean Ambrose keep up this momentum that he has right now as this super catchy babyface. So there's so many things against Roman Reigns right now. How do we make it work? Well, let's take into account first thing, the blessing in disguise. Daniel Bryan lost the championship without losing a match. He's a very over babyface, incredibly over. That's why he fucking main evented WrestleMania 30 and won the belt. And he doesn't need a second surgery. So, we could feasibly see Daniel Bryan return at the 2015 Royal Rumble and win the Royal Rumble a year later than he should have, and be the one to go to Mania and be the one to dethrone Brock Lesnar. Because I think Lesnar needs to lose the belt at Mania. I think that's the call. He shouldn't lose it any sooner. And he shouldn't lose it any later. I think his time expires at Mania 31 as champion. His time as champion. So that is one blessing in disguise. But Jake, what do we do with Roman Reigns? Well, first of all, the Triple H feud needs to happen this fall. It's bad enough that they're going to miss out on a Hell in a Cell blow-off. But at the very least, we could see a potential blow-off should there be a good, maybe TLC, if a gimmick match is appropriate for that, for this particular feud. Because tables, ladders, or chairs, I don't know how they could necessarily be an integral part of a feud concerning the character of Roman Reigns and the character of Triple H. Unless you want to put a sledgehammer hanging above the ring in a ladder match. And we all know what happened the last time that happened. Kevin Nash, baby. Woo! Diesel. So maybe we get that blow off at something like the Royal Rumble, which would be big. And now we need to think about, well, okay, should he succeed in the Triple H feud, now what? Let's throw The Rock at him. I honestly think that we will get The Rock at Mania 31. And if we want Roman Reigns to be over, we need to throw The Rock at him. And Rock will do the good old JOB for his 14th cousin, or whatever it is, in the Anoa'i family. Anoa'i? I think it's Anoa'i. That pronunciation of the great Samoan family. And so that I think that would be big. And if you can get it organic enough to where people are ready for, Roman Reigns, if he's badass enough to beat The Rock and not have the fans turn on him, should that work? Now we're talking about a Roman Reigns main event run. So, in my head, we could see Roman Reigns versus The Rock at Mania to help get Roman over. In the meanwhile, the title will switch from Brock Lesnar to, I believe, Daniel Bryan. And yes, Seth Rollins will not be cashing in the Money in the Bank successfully. I don't see it. It shouldn't happen. Not in the era of Brock. Maybe that'll lead to him versus Bryan post Mania, but that is what it is. But as far as the next few months go, Seth Rollins and the Money in the Bank deal are just a faraway dream of what might happen. So, where do we go from there? How are we going to make Roman Reigns the biggest star? So, we could get him the Rock feud, get Daniel Bryan over on Brock Lesnar in what would be a pretty big match. With Heyman talking, with Brock talking, and with Daniel Bryan getting the people behind him and all the heat he'll have on his return. I think there's a lot going for that match as a main event. And I think WWE, in that case, they could work with Daniel Bryan walking out yet again as champion, because this is kind of the Daniel Bryan era. Even with him hurt, it's still the Daniel Bryan era. So we get the belt on Bryan, and from there we could, you could say that Roman Reigns. I would have Roman Reigns beat Daniel Bryan and somewhere between either at SummerSlam, or if we could push it a little further, let's do it at Survivor Series. Or if we don't want to worry about splitting the crowd with babyface versus babyface, I say we do a transitional run. I would give the belt to Bray Wyatt at SummerSlam, and just give him 2 months to run roughshod with the family, just wreak havoc, and set up, probably for Hell in a Cell 2015, a Roman Reigns Bray Wyatt title switch where we get the belt on Roman in a different way, using a heel to get the belt on him, so we can worry a little less about splitting the audience with a Reigns-Daniel Bryan feud. And from there, we can get Roman Reigns going into Mania 32, where I'm going to go ahead and steal from @DanTVMan, my good friend Dan. Go follow him on Twitter when he's not tweeting about local New Hampshire theater projects he's involved in. He'll tweet about wrestling, and he's got some fun opinions. And to go ahead and make the main event of WrestleMania 32, Roman Reigns versus Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins. Have Seth Rollins as a heel win the Royal Rumble. Have Dean Ambrose win the 2015 Money in the Bank match so that Rollins will have the Rumble win, Ambrose will have the briefcase, Reigns will have the belt. And then we go into Mania 32 and we completely just blow people away and come full circle with this Shield coming back together, but this time as enemies for the belt. It's just, it would be big for them to pull that off in that way. So that's just some ideas I have for a path Roman Reigns could take that might actually work, God forbid. Is Roman Reigns ready for Mania 31? As of right now, no. Could he be? Maybe with a few of my suggestions, or maybe with other ideas, whatever ideas you have. Again, Roman Reigns isn't my favorite guy, but, if they're going to go with it, let's do it right. Let's make it better. Peace, guys.